Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show, and today we're going to be busting a housing myth because there's this idea out there that everybody should own a home. It's the ultimate goal. It's the ultimate American dream. Everyone should own real estate because property values only go up. But today we are here to debunk that myth with the opposite perspective from none other than Ramit Sethi. He posted this video a few months ago that got 1.5 million views, and it's titled, "Why I Don't Own a House as a Multi-Millionaire." So with that said, I want to share his perspectives because a lot of people are not thinking about this as soon as you hit the like button and subscribe, because this is going to be a very important video. Don't miss this one. And now let's begin.
I'm a multimillionaire and I don't own my house and I don't invest in any property. But why? Isn't a house a great investment? Isn't buying property a great place to put your money? And surely it's better than throwing your money away on rent, right? Well, when you run the numbers, that's actually often wrong.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to preface this by saying that since late 2016, early 2017, I've advocated for buying a house. At the time, I thought it was a great investment, it made financial sense, and if you're going to do it correctly over investing, you have to be smart about it. That means you don't max out your budget buying a single-family home that you're going to live in because it's cool and you like it and you deserve it and yada yada yada. I've highly advocated buying a place that's below your budget that you can fix up. And that way, when you fix it up, you've instantly just made some money. Because back in like 2017, 2018, 2019 even 2020, there were opportunities out there where you could look at the market, find a place that's worth $800,000 and buy it for $700,000 because it wasn't marketed correctly. You could be a good negotiator. You could look, a little outside the box. You could look past some of the cosmetic repairs. And then what you could do is fix it up a little bit. Minor cosmetic repairs, flooring, paint. It could be landscapes, basic stuff. So you're buying a place that's worth $800,000 for $700,000. So you just made about $100,000 in equity, which is less if you're going to sell it with closing costs and fees, but whatever. Let's just assume it's $50,000 of profit that you just made net of fees. And then you spend $20,000 fixing it up. So now you're in it like, let's just say $725,000. Well, now guess what? Maybe that place is worth $850,000 now because you spent some money fixing it up. All of that is extra profit so that if the market goes down, you're breaking even. And if the market keeps going up, well, guess what? That's a lot cheaper than renting. The other alternative that I've highly suggested, again, you could go back to 2017, I've been talking about this, house hacking. Buying a duplex, triplex, fourplex, because that still qualifies for conventional financing at low interest rates. You could move in one of the units and then you rent out the others to cover your cost. This is so easy to do back like 2016 through even 2020. It was only in the last few years that things got all wonky. And really, since 2021, I've stopped talking about the best ways to buy houses. I've started talking about just be cautious. Don't over-leverage yourself. I did mention that, when interest rates are at 2.8%, like it makes so much sense just to leverage as much money as you can because on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, inflation is going to be higher than that anyway. So it just makes sense. But recently, I've been looking at the numbers. It does not make a lot of sense to buy right now. That's the fact. Like when I look at the cost of buying that we'll go into shortly versus the cost of renting is just cheaper. It makes financial sense from the numbers. Unless, of course, you're planning to stay in the home and own it for the next 15 years, in which case it'll balance out. But in the short term, in the next 5 years, renting is just cheaper unless housing values just keep going higher, which they could. But he brings up some very interesting points that are worth considering.
If you're like most people, you picture a single family home with a white picket fence and 2.5 kids and a dog. That dream is the result of decades of marketing. Most people in the world do not live in single family homes like we do in America. And yet we believe this is the only measure of success.
In fairness, okay? Because I've lived in apartments, I've lived in multifamily, I've lived in single family. There is something nice about having your own space, having your own yard, not sharing a wall. There's something nice about that. Does that mean, I wouldn't go back to living in a duplex? No, because, some of my best memories were living in the duplex. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But I also like privacy. And so for single family homes, I get the appeal. I get why people want them.
Think about the numbers themselves. Decades ago, a house would cost roughly 2.5x your annual income. People would put down 20% and the total monthly payments would be about or less than 30% of your gross income.
Now, here's the thing. What he's not saying is that interest rates back then were at like 18%. So I get it. Incomes to housing values, they made a lot more sense back then. But interest rates were not at 2 to 5%. They were 10%, 15%, as high as 18%. So just take that into consideration, that the cheaper interest rates got, the more expensive housing got. The less housing they built, the more expensive housing gets. So there are some nuances to that.
Myth number 1, prices in real estate always go up. No, they don't. You would think people understand this after the 2008 recession, but there are powerful forces at play to get you to forget about this, such as the National Association of Realtors, your family, even the government.
Okay, so I will say that the only time in the last 100 years that housing prices meaningfully went down nationwide was in 2008 through 2012. That's it. Now, there are some areas that saw corrections of, let's just say, 10 to 20% within those, but I'm talking on national levels. Housing prices have increased on average between 2 to 3% every single year for the last 100 years, with that exception because that was highly isolated to real estate. So you could look at the numbers. That's just what it is. When you look at the actual data nationwide, there you go.
Phantom costs are all the costs of a house that most people forget about. They're phantoms. Things like closing costs, taxes, property insurance, maintenance, repairs, and of course, the cost, the opportunity cost of that down payment.
He is completely right about this, by the way. There is a fantastic calculator. It's called the New York Times Buy versus Rent Calculator. Go and do that. Type that up. And it's mind-blowing. I mean, they've thought of everything in terms of buying versus renting and which is going to be cheaper. I would agree with him on that. Now, when I did an analysis on housing values over the long term versus renting, I assumed that housing values would be going up on average about 2% a year. Maybe, let's even call it 3%, which is really generous. Actually, no, we'll stick with 2%. Of that 2%, 1% of your home's value every year is going to be spent on property taxes, insurance, maintenance, all these random things. So that's why I like to assume property values over the probably next 50 years, probably only going up about 1% a year. Net of all of your expenses and things that go into the property. It can be expensive.
If your house declines by 10%, you don't just lose 10% of your equity. In fact, you can be wiped out. So it is important to remember that house prices don't only go up, house values don't only go up, and leverage can work for you or it can work against you.
Again, that is very true. That's why you shouldn't be leveraging that much on a home that you can't afford or a home that's not making you money. Usually, leverage works when you're putting 20% down on a very safe property that you could comfortably afford, where you don't have to worry about it, or it's cash flowing really nicely with a long-term tenant. That's where it typically works, not on flips and not on short-term bets.
And remember, those tax deductions that everybody talks about, they were reduced even further in 2018, so I would not count on this. When you ask people, for example, what tax deductions? They often go, oh, tax deductions. I go, what tax deductions? Most people have no idea what a tax deduction even is.
Yeah, that's another downside, is that, the SALT cap limits state and local tax deductions to $10,000 a year. So if you're in a high income tax state, California, New York City, New Jersey, you're going to be out of luck. There's nothing to deduct because you're going to be over that limit anyway, so it's a moot point. The other issue is that you could only deduct mortgage interest up to $750,000. I believe only if you itemize your deductions, but if you take the standard deduction, it doesn't matter anyway. So really the first $12,000 of deductions doesn't matter. So it really just depends on, are you itemizing, are you taking the standard deduction? A lot of people really don't go into those nuances to determine if they're actually getting the tax benefits they think they are.
Now that we've learned to look past the housing propaganda and understand some of these myths, what do we need to do next? Part 3. Always run the numbers.
Now, before we go into this next part, I will say that if you do currently own a home or you are looking to buy a home, at least look into putting the property in a trust. Because here's the thing, when you buy a property in your own name, it's visible on public record. Like, people could literally go look up the property, find the person's name, or they could look up your name, look up the property, find the value of that property, And then if something were to happen to you also, it could go into probate, lawyers take their fees. So if you're interested in doing something like this, I invested in a company, it's called getdynasty.com, and they made it really easy to be able to put your property in a trust. They even had a free option. Like you could set up your trust for free. They do this because they believe you're really gonna like it, and then eventually there are other options that you could just expand on. So if you're interested in doing something like that, look into putting your property into a trust, and if you want a cheap option to be able to do this at a really cost-effective price, go to getdynasty.com and you could use my code Graham for 10% off. Again, I am invested in them, so I do have a financial interest in you going and signing up, but this is something that honestly I personally wish that I had done when I started buying property. It would have made my life so much easier. So again, if you currently own a home or you're looking to buy a home, it's so easy. You set up the trust and then you could place the property into the trust. Super easy. They'll handle it all for you. Again, getdynasty.com/Graham with the code Graham, 10% off. You guys will enjoy it. The link is down below.
If you rent, you're just throwing your money away, or you're paying your landlord's mortgage. I got a question for you. Would you say the same thing about eating out? Would you say, ugh, you're paying the restaurant owner's mortgage when you eat that sushi? No. So why is it that just rolls off our tongue when it comes to housing?
Yeah, I'm surprised he mentioned that because it's so true. I never thought of it that way, but he's right. It's like if you pay anything, you're paying for someone's mortgage. If you buy a coffee at Starbucks, you're paying for someone's mortgage. Whether it's the property owner who owns that land, whether it's the manager of the store and they get better sales numbers, whether it's the employee gets paid based on some of those numbers, like you're paying somebody's mortgage. Anytime money is exchanged, a mortgage is being paid in some way.
I was renting a nice place and I saw that there was a unit right next door. Same view, same square footage, same number of bedrooms and bathrooms, and I tracked it. It would have cost me 2.2 times more to own than what I was paying in rent.
He's not wrong. That's what I've been saying. These last few years have been so wonky when it comes to property values. It does not make sense. I look every day on Zillow. I see what's in the neighborhoods of every property that I own. I look within like a 10-mile radius of where I currently live, and I like to see everything that comes on the market for sale. I found some really amazing properties, and I'm like, oh man, I would love to move there. And then I look at the cost, and I'm thinking, why would I spend that cost when I could rent it for half the price? Or less? Or less? Why? It doesn't make financial sense. I would make more money just investing that into treasuries and using that to pay the rent. Doesn't make any sense to buy. There are some circumstances, yeah, sure, it will make sense, but in the vast majority of what I've seen, it just, the numbers aren't numbering. And that's the problem I have right now.
I want you to look at the home you're thinking of buying and calculate the true cost. Even the $25,000 roof repair that's gonna happen 11 years from now. You need to properly account for that now.
Yeah, it could be bad. Like, I'll give you a few examples recently. I spent $8,000 redoing some landscape on a rental property because that'll make it more rentable. So, and thankfully, I got it rented out within a few days, but it was $8,000 to upgrade things to make it rentable within a few days. And I got a great price on it, so, I'm happy. But that was an $8,000 expense. I also just had to spend $4,000 replacing some doors in a property because of all the rains we've been getting lately. And, the doors swell and they just had some issues, and $4,000 just gone. I also had to spend, how much? $2,500 for a new wall heater to be installed. And these are just things that's just like boom, 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 and it just come up out of nowhere. You just have to have the capital to do it. And it's just, listen, I am complaining. Okay, I'm complaining about it. It's a silly thing to complain about, but my point being is that owning properties is not just sitting back and collecting rent. There's a lot that goes out, and there have been some years where I would have made more money doing just about anything else other than owning the property, just because I've had a lot of one-time upfront capital expenses that just come up. So it is what it is.
From 1915 through 2015, home prices increased on average only 0.6% per year. I know this sounds crazy, but it is true. Go look at the data.
That might be net of inflation. So when I'm calculating some of these numbers, inflation's not calculated in them. So if they're going up 2 to 3% a year, subtract 2% for inflation, and there you go. You get 0.6% net of inflation.
You should not buy a house if you are thinking it's going to be a magic way to get rich, because for many people, it's not. But if you're buying a house saying, look, I've calculated the numbers, I'm okay if it goes up or down, I'm buying this as a house, a place to live, that's a good sign that you might be ready.
I agree with that as well. Everything he's saying here is completely correct. And if you're buying a house right now to live in, don't think of it as an investment. The only way to do that, you could think of it as an investment, is if you're buying a multifamily, moving in one unit, renting out the others to cover your cost. That could be an investment. Or you're buying something that needs a lot of work and you're going to move in there and fix it up and live in it while you're fixing it up. And then by the time it's done, you're hoping, you'll make a, 15, 20% profit. That can be good, but you got to be really careful of what you're doing.
I want you to be empowered to run the numbers and make a decision for your rich life. Forget what your parents say. Forget what your friends say. You decide what is right for your rich life.
Great video. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. And remember, if you guys own a property, you want to put it into a trust, check out getdynasty.com/Graham with the code Graham for 10% off. I highly recommend, even if you don't use them, by the way. Just like this is me really talking to you. Even if you don't use them, look up the benefits of putting a property into a trust for privacy protection, for probate. There's even some tax benefits depending on how you set it up. It's a little bit more complicated that way, but do some research. Highly recommend it, but make sure it's right for you, obviously. So with that said, thank you so much. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And also, I'll link to Ramit's video down below in the comment section as well. Go and give him a subscribe. We got to get him to 500,000 subscribers, which would be really cool. Thank you so much, and until next time.